All right, so we are looking at my transformational workbook. This is from Dream to Reality, a character first approach to goal setting. Before we start, I wanted to read a couple of these quotes. I won't read them all, but I want to hit a couple of them. The first one comes from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, a classic movie. It says that life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop to take a look once in a while, you could miss it. The next one is, in 10 years, 10 years will have passed. That's not supposed to be a profound statement. It's obvious. Time is linear. But what matters is what you do with those 10 years. And the last one I'll read is from Jim Rohn. He says, success is something you attract by the person you become. So the idea of how this workbook works is there's 4 simple transformational pieces of the formula. First one is the target, the action, the plan, and then the transformation. So the idea is you'll think through some of these. The first part is the target. Who is it that you really want to become? This is foundational, where most workbooks or goal-setting programs start with what do you want to accomplish. We are starting a little bit different from the who do you want to become, because here's the truth of the matter. Goals will flow naturally once you've identified who you want to be or what you want to be. A confident person doesn't force themselves to take risks. They naturally seek opportunity. A disciplined person doesn't struggle with consistency. It's just who they are. A creative person doesn't wait for inspiration. They create it. So let's start with a characteristic, and that'll determine our actions. Our actions will determine our results. Jim Rohn says, again, that success is something that you attract by the person you become. So who do we want to become? Our ideal self. That's the goal. So I want you to, for the sake of this, close your eyes and actually do it. When I was at home, I would never do it, but close your eyes, and I want you to fast forward 3 to 5 years from now. If everything was perfect, what kind of person would you be? What kind of house would you live in? What kind of character would you be? If you were in a movie, what would be your defining characteristics? Would you be confident or disciplined, creative or compassionate? Would you be bold and generous? Would you be focused, calm, authentic? I think a lot of these are pieces of the puzzle, but single words don't always describe what we want. And that's why it's so important to create a mental image of who you want to become. But I want you to label 5 core characteristics. And then I want you to decide what these characteristics would look like. These character traits aren't abstract concepts. They show up in our lives, how we live. For each character you listed, answer, how does someone with this trait show up in their daily life? If you wrote confident, how does a confident person walk into the room? How does a confident person handle rejection? How would they speak up in meetings or in class? If somebody asked them what they want, would they shy away from saying what's really on their mind, or would they be able to show them what they want, what they need? And I want you to do this with every single one of those attributes that you listed. All these characteristics. Really envision different scenarios how this quote-unquote confident person, this confident you, would respond. And I want you to write them all out. The third exercise is to look into your life, and we'll use confident again as the example. Look into your life and see what times in your life have you already exhibited these traits? When have you spoken your mind freely, if you're confident, right? When have you wanted to, but haven't? All right, so I want you to look at both of these. And this isn't about beating yourself up. It's about seeing how far you've come. I want you to look at both sides of the spectrum. Times where you were super confident and you really spoke your mind, and maybe you even lashed out if you're going to go that far on the spectrum. And times where you were shy and timid, and how you wish you could have responded if you were your ideal self. The reason why you want to do this is because inside of us, we already have a lot of the character attributes that we want. It's a matter of finding them and magnifying them, and instead of trying to hide them or to discourage the process, if you will. It's about knowing the seeds that you already have and growing those attributes, watering them, and allowing them to take hold rather than other attributes that oppose it, like shyness for confidence or timidness. A vision without purpose is fantasy. So let's make it real. Why do these specific characteristics matter to you? What becomes possible when you embrace them, when you embody them, when you become them? If you were confident, your relationships would prosper, right? You would be able to communicate more efficiently. Your relationships would benefit because you're able to show who you are. And maybe some relationships would suffer. But because you are who you want to be, you'll surround yourself with people you want to be around. Your work may improve. Your daily life, the way you feel about yourself would improve. All of these are pieces of who we want to be and how they would improve if we were to become the characteristics we've strived for. The reflection. Your target is set. You've identified who you are becoming. Everything in the rest of the workbook kind of flows from this foundation. Your ideal self is the root or the seed, and now we're just trying to water it and grow those attributes more. These aren't just new traits that would be nice to have. These are in part your new identity that we are working on, we're constructing until it becomes our default. Remember, you don't become confident by achieving goals. You achieve goals by practicing confidence until it becomes who you are. All right, so there's the common trope that says fake it till you make it. And this isn't exactly what we're doing, although it may feel like it at times. The idea is to practice till you become it. I think when we look at other areas in our life, it makes sense that we practice things. If you were practicing the piano, you wouldn't say, as you progressively practice the piano, that you're losing some sort of self every time you practice. Every time you didn't make the mistake in there, you're not losing some self, you're becoming better. Now, quick story on this note. I played trumpet for years throughout middle school and high school. So, about 8 years I played. And at the very beginning, I was extremely shy and timid. And towards the end, I felt like I could do anything. Now, it took practice. It took a long time. And it took me knowing what I wanted. It took me listening to people who I wanted to emulate, their styles and their tones and their playing, their articulation and their different styles. And it took a lot of effort on my part practicing emulating that. Now, I didn't lose myself in the 8-year journey of playing. I didn't lose some part of me. Instead, I became the kind of person I wanted to be, playing the kind of music I wanted to play, with the right rhythms and the right articulations, the right melodies, proving myself as a player, not just somebody starting off. So we're doing the same thing here. We're not faking our character, we're practicing until it becomes who we want to be. This is our action section. From characters to outcomes. Takes action. Now that you know who you're becoming, let's talk about the goals. These aren't arbitrary goals, these are natural outcomes of somebody with your targeted characteristics. A confident person naturally pursues opportunity. A disciplined person naturally completes difficult projects. An athlete naturally does athletic things. That's why they're an athlete. A creative person naturally produces their original work. They don't need to steal it. They can build on top of things, and they can come up with their own ideas and execute them. Your goals should be evidence of the character transformation, not replacing it. Often, books like this and formulas like this follow the check mark. I will know that I've done X by Y outcome. This isn't what we're trying to do here. We're trying to take the vision, water it, and then it becomes our default. Breaking it down to the key components of confidence, right? You have something worth saying, and you say it. You develop, for confidence. Not only do you have something worth saying, maybe you need to practice the skills to say it. Maybe you need to practice the delivery, the presence, building confidence visibly. Maybe it's sitting upright, or maybe it's, standing with your chest up and knowing that you don't have to shrink down and hide. Again, this is practice. It's not losing yourself. It's becoming who you want to be. Create an audience. People will want to hear from you if you have something worth saying and you say it well. Each of these areas require focus and effort. Each sub-goal supports the bigger vision. All right. Exercise number 5 is your outrageous vision. I want you to think about the ideal version of yourself as you described it earlier. The 5 characteristics of you living your best life. What's the big picture that this person accomplishes? Now, this should be clear enough that you can see it, and big enough that it's exciting, ambitious enough that it gets you wanting to achieve it and drive. Now, this isn't something that should be so big it discourages you from trying, but this should very, very hard stretch you, because we're not doing it tomorrow. We're becoming this kind of person over our lifetime. And that's what I love about this idea, is we don't just turn it on January 1st, and then by February 1st it expires and we forget. This is the process of becoming who we want to be. The examples are starting a business that makes $100,000 annual revenue. Maybe you write and publish a book. I'll break down one of these so we can kind of see how I envision it. If you close your eyes and you envision that scene of your ideal life, what does it look like on a practical sense? Are you regarded as somebody who has something worth saying? Well, then you have to say it. Maybe you should write and publish a book that helps people, so you have rapport, confidence. What am I thinking of? You have authority in the matter. People know that you have authority by the things that you do. If you're wanting to be a leader in a specific field, then you need to be promoted in a field so that people can recognize you for who you are, so you can recognize you for who you are. And then let's break down this vision again. We'll list 5 components that you need to achieve to make the vision become real. So these are part of that checkmark piece that I said that we're trying to avoid. Again, we use confidence, something worth saying. So maybe to prove that you have something worth saying and you say it, maybe you have to share it in front of people and promote yourself, which is a big, outrageous, hard step. But if you build it smaller, and you just start practicing saying the things when people ask. And then you practice saying the things before they can ask, perhaps, and not hiding. Then you're able to show who you want to be. The evidence of the transformation happens when this doesn't feel forced. Now, it takes a long time and a lot of effort. Let's go back to me playing my trumpet. It took a long time and a lot of effort to play in such a way that I felt like it's me playing. I wasn't playing the written notes. I wasn't playing the written melodies. I was able to pull from what was in my head and play it out for people to hear what was going on in my head. It took a long time, but I knew who I was when I played it flawlessly. Now, it wasn't flawless, but it was to me. One of my first solos I played was hilarious. It was a joke of a solo, in all my respect. And I looked back on that a long time because I missed an opportunity. I had a vision for what I wanted, and I missed the mark. And as I progressed next year, I worked on that solo a long time in silence by myself, so that when I promoted it and when I was given the opportunity, I had something worth playing. And I did it again the next year. And I got better and better every year until I was playing the thing that I wanted to play. So it takes a long time. And that moment when you've played the thing you want to play, that's how you know you've become the thing. And it wasn't forced. It came out of me. But it took effort, of all the background effort we don't see. So here we have all the pieces of the pie. Here's the big part now. We have 5 components, 5 milestones to complete the vision. I want you to focus on one piece of the puzzle. If you're building confidence, the first piece for me, make sure you're clean, make sure you're well groomed, well dressed, and stand up with your shoulders back and chest up. That's the first step. And then saying something worth saying, right? That's the next step. And you have to slowly build up on that. And that's the idea. Break down, okay, in my ideal life, I want to be confident. Confidence to me looks like being able to say what's on my mind and people listening. Breaking that down one step further is knowing what to say and how to say it, right? Breaking that down is, you have to be well read. Perhaps you have to be able to articulate your ideas. You need to be dressed and act in a way that people want to listen to you and listen to your ideas and implement them. And you have to work all the way down to the smallest step forward. That way you can keep building momentum. And I want you to work on this, find the thing and work on it for the next 30 days until it becomes a default habit. Dressing nice, standing with your chest up. Once you have corrected your posture and you're worked on it for, a few weeks and it becomes more of a default, add the next thing on and add the next thing on. Don't try tomorrow to be perfectly confident. It doesn't work out. You get burnt out. Take the smallest consistent step forward that you can do. Label the big milestone that you want. And then define why this one's first. And then define why this one's first too, right? You want to be able to name why you chose the thing you chose and be able to explain it to a very young kid and let them understand why. That way, it's clear. At this point, in theory, you should kind of know who you want to be, and you should kind of know the things that you'd have to do to accomplish that. And now we're kind of going to build the system off of just the thing that we just talked about. Goals without systems are just wishes, so you kind of need to make a plan, and that's what I was just talking about. People think that transformation happens through willpower and massive effort. It doesn't. It happens through practice, right? Just like I was talking about before. If you're going to the gym and you 1 rep max the absolute most you can possibly lift, you have risk of injury, fatigue, and just giving up because it's not where you want to be. Instead, take part of your max and do as many as you can. And then try it again next week. And I'm not saying don't ever try your 1 rep max. I'm saying do the background work so your rep can grow. Now here's another story of me implementing some of these ideas. This is a story of me expanding my vision and learning to push myself even harder. For time's sake, I won't go into it. But this is, exercise 9 or so. This is building your practice system. This should be something that's sustainable, specific, and connected to the vision, to your target trait. This is something daily, right? You need to have a daily reminder to stand up straight. And practice. Practice only doing it for a few minutes in public, right? Practice saying the thing that's on your mind just for a few moments until you can relax and then be able to do it again, right? That way you don't overdo it, but you can start building that habit moving forward things. Maybe you need to make eye contact with people. When I was in college, I practiced a lot of these things, but one of the things I did was I tried to make eye contact when I was talking to people and smile, right? Some people can't do that. I couldn't do it when I was first trying. So I had to practice. If you have something worth saying, like something to say in class, say it. The thing about classes is most people have a question. And the teacher will have the whole lecture and no one will say anything. And at the very end, somebody will ask one question before it's time to go. And all of a sudden, everybody has 10 questions. But it's because they finally broke the ice. So practice breaking the ice. Pick 3 of these daily ones and practice them every week until it becomes part of your habit. You have to build your system around that mentality. You have to work on it. Right? Practice doesn't just happen in a vacuum. We can't just wake up one day and have practiced. It takes the effort to practice. Kind of get in the right framework, the right mentality to do the thing. And I have a few more pages of this, but it basically just goes back into that formula. Find the big picture vision, break it down into a few characteristical steps, and then break down those characteristics into the next step forward. This is arguably the most important part of the whole thing. This is the second part that I feel like really distinguishes this mentality from any other workbook or goal setting idea. This is when we fail, when we miss, when we fall short. This is the piece that is neglected. On days that you miss, on days that you forget, on days that you fall short, that you get off track, that you miss the habit, you miss the mark, it's okay. The difference between people who transform and people who don't, it's not about perfection. It's not genetics. It's about how quickly they can get back on track. So, when you notice that you've fallen off track, I will respond appropriately. In the rest of this workbook, I have, find somebody that you can be accountable with. That one is pretty obvious to me, but I want to say it anyways, right? To get back on track quickly, I will look over my goals again. I'll rehearse the vision. I'll find the fight worth fighting. I'll know I'm back on track when I keep doing the thing, right? You don't have to be perfect. But when we fall short, we need to figure out how to get ourselves back up. We need to learn from our past. Again, this is an optional exercise. You don't have to, but look back on who you want to be, on what you've done, and keep moving forward. Sometimes we get locked in the loop of falling short and not getting back up. Look back on our life. We've already done a lot of things. All right. Part 4, I think this is our last part. This is the idea of when it's become natural. It compounds. Every time you do it, it gets a little bit easier. You may still have to think about it, but it's not forced. Then one day you'll catch yourself doing it without thinking about it. And then it becomes automatic. Then it's just who you are. You don't have to practice confidence. You're confident. You don't have to force confidence. You're just confident. You don't have to force discipline. You become a disciplined person. Right? My last metaphor here, we can talk about a few more things, but a metaphor that I like is the river of life. I like it because I made it up myself. Life is like a river, right? The current's always moving. Time doesn't just stop. Time's always moving forward. That's why at the very beginning I had the quote, in 10 years will have passed. We're all flowing downstream whether we like it or not. But we can fight the current and try to stay where we are, but eventually we get tired. The river never gets tired. Time keeps persisting. You can let the current take you wherever you want. You can avoid the rocks, you can avoid the hard obstacles, or you can hit every single one of them. You can build a better boat, you can chart a course, you can avoid the pitfalls. The idea is life keeps moving. You have to know your destination, you have to know the landmarks along the way, and that's how you navigate. Another exercise is the two futures. And keeping in mind that life always keeps moving, look at two parts. If everything stays the same, your current habits, your current mindsets, your current trajectory, where will you be in 3 years, right? If nothing changes, will you be who you want to be? For me, I'll be happy, but I won't be who I want to be. If you implemented one thing today and you kept doing it in 3 years, who do you think you would be? And what future would you rather live? The first step, you should practice right now. Not tomorrow, do it today. Pick one thing that in the next 24 hours you can start on. And keep moving forward from there. Right? Review your systems. Make sure they're not something that's too hard. Keep breaking it down smaller so you can do it consistently. Now, there we go. Review it monthly, right? Look it over. Make sure you're still trying, right? That's one of the things about bouncing back is if you've forgotten you're trying, then you won't be trying. So you have to review it monthly, right? Review it quarterly. How did the last 3 months go? What could I have improved on? Am I closer to the vision than I was 3 months ago? Has the vision changed? And it probably has. That's okay, right? Have an accountability partner. Share it with them. Figure out how they will support you. Maybe share it with them, every other week. If you need more support, right, you can work with a coach or mentor. Sometimes I do that. You can come up with an AI plan and have it talk to you about things. But the idea is to reflect. You're already ready. You've already done a lot of the work. You already know who you want to be. Now it's just a matter of doing it. Actually doing it. That's the hard part. Right? Practice beats perfection. Character precedes achievement, right? You don't just need to check it off. You need to work on it till it becomes who you are. The compound effect is real. If you practice one thing every day, you don't just master that one thing. You magically get a lot better at a lot of other things. All right. Oh, and transformation takes time. Be patient with yourself. That's the hardest part. Everyone wants it done today. Next week, next year, right? Becoming who you want to be is a lifelong pursuit. And once I realized that, my whole mentality changed on the topic. All right. This workbook is the foundation, right? If you want the workbook, it's... I think this is version 3. I think version 2 is for sale right now. I'll finish polishing this and then making it actually pretty and then publish it later. But yeah, this is publicly, this is the second iteration, is the one that's for sale. This iteration is, in real life, it's like number 7 or 8 that I've worked on, which I think is pretty cool, right? I've come a long ways and I'm getting better at it. I wanted to share this with everybody because I think it's worth knowing. All right, my final word is the best is yet to come. You're not going to be where you are today, doesn't determine where you'll be tomorrow unless you let it. Right? I believe in the power of vision. I believe that discipline is practice, and that the reality of transformation is practical, right? You don't have to wake up a completely different person. I think life is flowing, the river is flowing, time keeps moving. It's your turn to navigate it. And created by me. I did this. I want you to actually take charge of your life, because that's important. And I want you to do the best that you can, not for me, but because you deserve it. Good luck.